Episode 137. Again, Chris, thank you for the question. Talking about standing in the batter's box, the proper place to stand in the batter's box, but there are so many more elements to that. And the one element, number one, that's at the top of the list for me, it's to gain more time, right? I'm going to give you some perspective here, Ep. A hitter's reaction time, give or take, they've got about 0.40 seconds, right? Or 4/10 of a second to react. The average launch to contact is 0.15. Therefore, if you connect the dots, the hitter has about 0.25 seconds to make a decision to swing or not, give or take, because guys are throwing a
LaSalle
lot
math
harder.
at its finest, baby.
Yeah. Guys are throwing a lot harder nowadays. So my LaSalle math could
I
ultimately
think that's
be
a 90
off
mile
me.
an hour, if I'm not mistaken. 90
Yeah.
mile an hour
So,
is 0.4.
okay. So give or take, you shave off a few seconds and you probably get,
And
the proper, Harvard or, George Washington University math, not LaSalle. Okay. All of this, of course, assuming that you have good mechanics at the plate and your mechanics in that moment are very solid. But those numbers just give you context and make you better understand, hey, look, we have to really think about where we position ourselves in the batter's box and how it relates to our approach.
So Ted Williams, I mean, if we go back to really the first person that talked about where to stand in the batter's box, that at least I remember from his book was you want to make contact in fair territory.
Mhm.
Yeah, you want to make contact in fair territory, which is right at the front of home plate. So if your barrel is kind of at the front of home plate, um, you're going to have more of the field to essentially hit with. If you hit it deeper in the zone, your angles, because don't the foul lines come off the point of home plate, right? That's where the first base and third base.
You're
So if
making
you
a
make
V with your hands for those
yeah,
not
so if you
watching.
make contact in front of that, essentially your angle is slightly larger to hit a ball fair, right? So most players, when they stride, their front foot is at the front of home plate, and we want to make contact for the most part at about our front foot. So what I usually do to start with is I'll have a player figure out how far their stance is and make sure when their front foot lands, it's at the front of home plate. Now that's just baseline. Here we go. I don't really know how good your mechanics are yet. I don't know how quick you are to the ball, but that's fairly, for a small player, it's not quite the back of the box because they're small. But for a fully grown player, if their front foot starts at the first point of home plate, I should say the second point working backwards, like the front point is the front of home plate, and then there's the second point behind it. If they start at that second point and stride to the first point, someone that's 6 foot will be in the back of the batter's box. Somebody that's
Yeah.
4'5", right? That's a little kid, they'll be more in the middle of the batter's box. So that all depends. Now, the other thing is, how big are they? So I'm 6'5" and I don't remember how long my arms are.
Yeah, your wingspan's
35
probably pretty
inches, something
large.
like that. I don't know. I have long arms.
You've got Joel Embiid wingspan.
Yeah, I have a long bat. I swung a 34, 35-inch bat, 34 and a half when I was, in pro ball. I could cover a lot more of the plate than a kid that's 12 years old and 5'1" with 27-inch arms. So those younger players really, if they're trying to cover the plate efficiently without pre-extending their arms, without casting, they have to be closer to the plate. Okay, the plate doesn't change. It's always 17 inches. In fact, at the young ages, it's more like 24 inches, right? I mean, that's a big plate that those little kids have to cover. Umpires are, usually erring on the side of the pitcher throwing a strike. So it makes it more difficult on the young player. So if I was basing it, if you were going through kind of my online stuff, or if you've attended some of my seminars or certifications, the length of a player's foot, if you take the length of their foot and they put it against the batter's box line, whatever that is, 8 inches to 14 inches, that's kind of where I would start a player. Okay, so a smaller player with smaller feet essentially will be closer to the plate. Again, this is all, I don't know you as a player. I don't know what your swing is like. This is where we should start. So you're going to be in the rear, half of the batter's box, I would say, or the rear third of the batter's box, and you're going to be fairly close to the plate.